Ladies and gentlemen, it is better to debate a matter without settling it
than to settle a matter without debating it. And that's how we like our debates here on Kenya's #1 debate platform that gives high school students an opportunity to air out their ideologies the best way they can through debate. I am your host, Chris Boru.
And I am Esperantia Kapanga. Continuing with the race at the Nationals, today's motion states that ending extreme poverty is a myth that cannot be achieved.
In the proposition, we have the gentleman from Ndururumo High School.
And in the opposition are the ladies from Kathiani Girls High School. Proposal number 1, you have 3 minutes to make your submission.
Let me take you slow. Once I was 7 years old, my grandmother sat me down and told me a myth and told me the truth where I came from. And I thought it was the truth. She told me that we started from Agikuyu and Mumbi. But when I reached in Form 2, the evolving book, chapter 2, Evolution of Man, told me that was just a myth, and that is the truth. My name is Nelson Macharia Wanderi from the Ndururumo High School, proposing the motion that states ending extreme poverty is a myth that cannot be achieved. According to the Oxford Dictionary 9th edition, I will expound on the meaning of the key terms of the motion. Ending, this is the act of finishing something. Number 2, extreme, it means very great in degree. Poverty, it is the state of being poor. I mean, lacking something. Myth, this is something that many people believe to be true, but it is actually a lie. Number 5, achieve, to succeed in doing something, a particular goal. Okay, I will enlighten you on the meaning of extreme poverty, because we are dealing with extreme poverty, not poverty, but extreme poverty. According to actionagainsthunger.org, number 1, people living with extreme poverty are the people who are living with less than $1.90 per day. Number 2, 767 million people in the world live in extreme poverty. Number 3, 328 million children live in extreme poverty. That's the kind of the world that we are living in. According to QZ.com, Nigeria is the poverty capital of Africa. This means that Nigeria has the highest number of those people who are living in extreme poverty. To eradicate extreme poverty, this is what you need to do. You have to make the factors of production to be perfect. In our universe, you cannot make the factors of production to be perfect, which are land, labor, capital, and organization. You cannot make them to be perfect, maybe in another universe. What do I mean? In Nigeria, for example, because one of the factors of production is labor, in Nigeria, for example, according to tradingeconomics.com, the rate of unemployment increased to 23.10%. That was an increase from 22.70%, an increase of 0.4. The trend is being expected to increase day in and day out. According to still tradingeconomics.com, the population of Nigeria is 200,967,417. With this population growing, because the population is not stagnant, and the rate of unemployment going, this gives us the Charles law, the proportionality law, where unemployment increases and also the population increases. If these two continue to increase, we'll never have factors of production. And that is the truth. We can never have perfect factors of production. Therefore, we can never eradicate extreme poverty. It will always be there, smiling at us, laughing at us. It will be married to us. And for the ladies in the house who think that, who have not found anybody who is faithful, I'll give you somebody who is faithful to you, and that is extreme poverty. She will never leave you. She'll be there with you, smiling at you, laughing at you. I rest my case. Thank you.
First proposer, you have 3 minutes to make your submission.
Things money can't buy. Number 1, manners, character, common sense, class, and morals. My name is Gladol Tamar from Kathiani Girls High School, here to strongly oppose the motion that states ending extreme poverty is a myth that cannot be achieved. According to Wikipedia, these are some of the definitions of the main words. Ending, bringing something to a stop. Extreme, existing in a very high degree. Poverty, inability of one to meet their basic needs. Myth, an idea that is untrue and is believed by many people. Achieved, successfully bring about or reach. Before we start, I'm not really convinced with the dictionaries or Wikipedia's definition of poverty. What is poverty? Poverty is the myriads of scurfy people. According to my picture in my mind, if you tell me what is poverty, this is a picture I have in my mind. It's the myriads of scurfy people crammed in hovels in smelly, unhygienic slums. And then you have a perennial gallery of spindle-limbed children with bloated stomachs and wrinkled faces, dying of kwashiorkor, diarrhea, measles, malaria. These are diseases which can't be prevented. On to my first point. Food security. Nadapal, Nakamane, Kabolukor, Kalemunyang, phase 1 and 2, and Loborot. Heavy words, I know, but let me just ease your minds up by telling these are projects that were created to end hunger in Turkana years ago, according to Daily Nation, March 2019. We all remember Project Kenyan for Kenyans, right? That was meant to mitigate starvation in Turkana and other famine-stricken areas in Kenya. A whopping 19 million Kenya shillings was collected in only 2 days. This research was done by www.reliefweb.report.kenya. This money was used to help our dying and starving brothers and sisters in 2011. Perfect success. If we want to achieve food security, we must ensure that we look after the vital ecosystems that allows us to produce our food. A hungry man is an angry man. We can also adopt the ancient farming techniques as Western Africa called Zai, a simple technology. Let me just explain it to you how it works. There's a circular depression is dug into dry soil and used to grow seedlings and turn crusted land into nurseries by improving water retention. If properly executed, Zai can increase yields by up to 500% in some of the driest climates on Earth. This is according to research done by www.aljazeera.com. Increase in gender equality. Previously, women have had little or no access to formal education and employment. This is due to cultural beliefs. A female's full-time worker was earning 78 cents for every $1 earned by men. Yet another research done by AmericanProgress.org. Now, we can't stop poverty. I strongly agree that we are not yet where we are supposed to be, but we are getting there. And by probably 20 soon, we will be there. Thank you.
Second proposer, you have 3 minutes for cross-examination.
Wow. My worthy opponent has just surpassed me in terms of knowledge. But remember, knowledge is understanding that tomato is a fruit. Wisdom is not using it in a fruit salad. I believe many might have encountered this song in their earlier stages in life. The place to be happy is here, and the time to be happy is now. And the way to be happy is to make someone happy and to have a little heaven down here. But what kind of little heaven down here have we created when there are laws without justice, justice without truth, and truth without honesty? Here to dispel the ending extreme poverty talk is Dennis Njogu from Ndururumo High School. On to my first point. It is said that a people without the knowledge of its culture and its history is like a tree without roots. I presume we are in the limelight concerning our cultures. I can see that my time here as a student is over. It is my time to be a teacher. And let's switch to history. Daxters.com shows that on 14th July 1789, something out of the ordinary happened. A man gave birth. Napoleon Bonaparte gave birth to the French Revolution, which lasted for 10 years, being fueled by the social antagonisms between the aristocrats and the commoners. The commoners who paid taxes, the commoners who consisted of the deprived bourgeoisie and the deprived. Well, even though a lucha continua was the policy 10 years down the line, the chief goal of the revolution was never achieved. And the chief goal was to ensure social equity between the two classes. Our articulate neighbors, Tanzania, themselves have applied socialism in a bid to combat extreme poverty. But according to www.bbc.co.uk, they have failed because many of Tanzanian citizens still live below the extreme World Bank poverty line, which is approximately $1 a day. On to my second point. One might argue that yaliyopita si ndwele, tugange yajayo. It's fine, tugange yajayo. I just overheard that education can be used to combat extreme poverty. I term this as blind faith. Why? Let's say this. For instance, there's a lot of quantity in education, but there is no quality. Chapter 4, Part 3, Article 53, Section 1B of the Kenyan Constitution entitles every child to a right to free and basic education. But if you argue it out this way, School A in Kenya according to www.internationalschools.database.com, pays an annual fee of approximately 1.5 million, while School B issues free education. Are these two schools going to offer the same standard in education? No. A student from School A is likely to succeed. A student from B is not. The standards do really matter. Well, a student from B will be judged harshly to a life imprisonment in extreme poverty squared, and the cycle will be a circumlocution on him and any other person like him and his generation. Cross over to our side. There is no beating poverty.
Second opposer, you have 3 minutes for cross-examination.
Well, I am not a perfect girl in front of you, but I am Colleen Mweni, strongly opposing the motion. Ending extreme poverty is a myth that cannot be achieved. My first proposer talked about perfecting our resources, but hey, do we have to perfect the things that we cannot? I have an example of Dubai. Dubai's climate is hot and dry. They never wanted to change the climate to cool and wet because really it's impossible. But what did they do? They used their hot and dry to create a heaven in a hell. So hey, we don't have to perfect our resources. We have to modify our available resources to production. Thank you. Well, I believe in fairy tales, and ending extreme poverty has become one of late. Okay. You remember Storm Over Paradise? You remember Love Spell? Okay, these are soaps that remain stuck as my childhood memories. But then, research just shocked me out of my fantasies. Mexico has 10 million people living in shanty towns. Imagine this. When you start migrating from here to Mexico, you will either have to live in the streets or you'll have to create your own shelter. What to all those who wanted to visit the place? I know the problem seems hopeless, but hey, do you know about Singapore? Singapore is an island country, and this country just made a way out of their poverty problem. What did they do? They cleared the shanty towns. They displaced millions of people. They created tower blocks and high-rise estates. And what we want to know, that place is so beautiful. There's no those slums and those hovels that you were talking about in poverty. Well, according to United Nations estimates 2018, victims under absolute poverty has decreased from 1.9 billion in 1990 to 1.2 billion in 2008. Okay, I know there are many people. 1.2 billion is a lot number of people, I know. But there is a progress that is being seen into us. A whole 700 million people moving from the poverty line down to a rich man. No matter how much we try denying this, a decrease of 700 million in 18 years is a step to ending poverty. Statistics don't lie, and let me tell you, I can see light at the end of the tunnel. It only takes us to stand and fight poverty. I know they say unity is strength, but I believe unity is power. The moment we stop getting scared by the demons that has attacked others, they've talked about Tanzania and people who have failed to eradicate poverty, but hey, we cannot get scared by the demons of our neighbors. We need to make a stand out of our comfort zones. We need to stand and fight poverty. And we will not do this without believing in ourselves. Thank you.
The proposers have have been asked, if we cannot end extreme poverty, how can we improve the living standards of the citizens of our countries? The opposers, on the other hand, have been asked, yes, education may be a solution for poverty, but what happens when these graduates after school cannot get jobs? How do we deal with unemployment? Proposer, you have 3 minutes to respond.
Extreme poverty is a very complicated issue, but feeding a child isn't. My name is Lewis Mbogo from the diligent Ndururumo High School, here to strongly propose on the motion that states ending extreme poverty is a myth that cannot be achieved. I'd like to answer the question posed by the beautiful and gorgeous girl from Kakuhia Girls when she said that, what are the solutions we give? I'd like to phrase this question from the source from the bbc.co.uk, which states that shows that Islam have accepted there is no beating extreme poverty. What they do is in accordance with Zakah and Sadaqah, teaching, donating foods to the extremely poor. You see that they don't go an extra mile, they only control it. There's no beating extreme poverty. They've already been embedded within them. They have learned there's no ending this monster that cannot be ended. Please ponder that point, because one, we can't end extreme poverty. What you do is you control it. Like when the second opposer stated that about Singapore. Singapore is ending its own poverty, but can I ask you this question? Is it the only is it the only country in the world? The whole world is affected by extreme poverty. So we should all focus on how to end extreme poverty. But that's not what they're doing. They're only ending in one place, while extreme poverty cannot be ended. That's why it's a myth. As I go to my first point, from TheGuardian.com, which states that despite the on-trend rhetoric and optimism, the chances of ending extreme poverty are slim, and thus altogether zero. You cannot tell me from the dawn of time till today we have not been able to end extreme poverty, so that when in the future times we'll be able. Come on, stop telling me a lie that is in plain light. You cannot tell me that something in darkness that cannot be brought to the light. So please, stop lying to me. As I go to my second, call me a cynic, but I'm skeptical. Bill Gates produces an annual letter. Let me get this, an annual letter each year on the trajectories on how to end extreme poverty. But let me ask you this question. Has extreme poverty been ended? No. We find that extreme poverty is still affecting us in everyday life. It has always been embedded within us. We cannot change it. Even Bill Gates himself can give us whole letters for each year, each month, but nothing will ever change. Because why? Extreme poverty is a myth. It cannot be changed, and it will always stay and be with us. On to my third point. Religion is opium to the poor. Any teaching from religion, they understand and incite on it better than they can do in books. No offense meant. So this is a point that's self-explanatory. So that when you find religion is opium to the poor, they understand that poverty cannot be ended. Extreme poverty, for correction. We should learn that extreme poverty can never end. We should learn and embedded within us. As I go to my next point, from the same source from the bbc.co.uk, Hindus have accepted extreme poverty, which to them is not a negative thing. To them, good birth is about contentment. Get that. Good birth is about contentment. Get that and understand that. That is a statement that you should all learn. So please cross over to our side and redeem and get this, that this is irredeemable. Which is true, by the way.
Third opposer, you have 3 minutes to respond to your question.
Creating jobs is indeed one of the redemptions of extreme poverty. Well, if you have a job, then you have food, you have shelter, you have healthcare, and this removes the negative label of poverty from you. Now, to curb unemployment, the world needs to create 5.6 new jobs as per the economy CNN. This is achieved when states come up with measures like creation of renewable sources of energy and providing opportunities for creativity and self-employment. Extreme poverty, therefore, can be ended by simply not embracing the enemy. One of the major reasons why over 1 billion people live below the 190 shillings per person per day is because of lack of credible data. Now, good and credible data is the foundation for achieving the end of extreme poverty by the end of 2030. We need to identify the most vulnerable, marginalized, and poorest people so that we know where exactly to help. The World Bank, in this case, generalizes regional average poverty of countries with no data. For instance,
North and South Korea are treated as having the same poverty rate, which badly reflects on reality. Now, collecting data, finding out where the problem is, will help us curb extreme poverty. Is it a myth? No. Is collecting poverty a myth? No. Can we do it? Yes. So what am I trying to say? Extreme poverty can be ended. People can live above the 200 shillings per person per day. A leading cause of poverty is the prevalence of diseases like malaria, tuberculosis, and HIV, all these which are very preventable. Now, you see, when a household is affected, all its merged resources are channeled towards medication. And it's even worse if the breadwinner is the one who is affected. Now, what does this do? This subjects the family to abject poverty. But there is a solution. What countries need is to provide either free or affordable healthcare services. Through the NHIF, for example, in Makueni County, the county government is providing universal healthcare program which was launched in 2016 and has so far reached over 45,000 households, according to the standard on 14th February 2019. Do you know what this means? This means that 45,000 households were saved from extreme poverty. And you come tell me that it is a myth. It is a myth to help people live above the mere 190 shillings per person per day. Relook into your statistics. Thank you.
Proposers, you have 1 minute to make a final submission.
I am perplexed. Are my opponents here addressing poverty or extreme poverty? Anyway, that's none of my business. Poverty is almost just like fate. On page 68 of The Pearl by John Steinbeck, we learn that every man and woman is like a soldier posted to guard some part of the castle of the universe. And some are in the ramparts and some are far deep in the darkness of the walls. Well, believe me when I say that poverty and its extremes have even been contextualized in one of what is believed to be the oldest books, the Bible, where we see it has visible traces and it can be traced back. Well, believe me when I tell you that ending extreme poverty is just a dream. Oh, I'm sorry for the understatement. Ending extreme poverty is a very sweet dream. But remember, even in the middle of the sweetest dreams, time comes when one has to wake up, and that time is now. I would like to address that this ending extreme poverty talk has become a hard drug to us, and the only way to think clearly of the way ahead is to end our addiction. I call for more sobriety.
Opposers, you have 1 minute to make a final submission.
I strongly believe that when you show people the problem and the solutions, they will be moved to act accordingly. Future generations will judge us accordingly if we fail to uphold our moral and historic responsibilities of ending extreme poverty. Saving our planet, lifting people out of poverty, advancing economic growth. These are one and the same fight. Pages of the same book. We must connect our dots between climate change, water scarcity, energy shortage, food security, and women empowerment. Solutions to one problem must be solutions for all. Remember, and God created light out of darkness. Let's create light in this situation. Thank you.
The motion wasn't well executed. It wasn't well understood, and I think because of that, the delivery was also a bit of a problem. To the two teams, you understand, your responsibility was to make us understand whether we can end extreme poverty or we cannot end extreme poverty. You see, if you come to the stage and it appears like you have not understood the motion, or you have understood but you have a problem delivering on the motion, then it becomes a problem for the audience to understand. Believe me, I think you, the girls, you should have won the debate by a big margin. And the key here is the word extreme. And your point should be simple. You know, we cannot end poverty but we can end extreme poverty. And you see, you gave examples. For example, the example of Singapore and the example of Mexico. And you said in Mexico, people are living in extreme poverty, but in Singapore, they have tried to redeem themselves. And right now, by the way, Singapore is doing very well. My question was simple. What have they done? Have they invested more in agriculture? Is it a question of political goodwill? Is it a question of universal healthcare, which was mentioned by the last debater? So in as much as you used Singapore as a case study, the question that we still had was, what did Singapore do? So you had an advantage in terms of how the motion was crafted, but you just didn't utilize it. My word is, be opportunistic as a debater. There is something we call word debate, where the debate narrows down to one word, where the argument is on that one word. And I think that is when the last debater who talked about, are the girls talking about poverty or ending extreme poverty? And what was your conclusion? That is none of my business. I'm sorry. It is your business. In fact, you should have capitalized on that this is what the motion is all about. The motion narrows down to the question of extreme or not extreme poverty. So I think there was opportunity in both teams. There is a way in which you could have argued your case out. But the problem is you did not see the loophole. Once you see it, seize it and make a case for your team.
So after all is said and done, it's down to the numbers. With a difference of 1.5%, Ndururumo High School, the judges awarded you 70%. Let's give them a round of applause. Kathiani Girls High School, the judges saw it fit to award you 71.5%. Let's give them a round of applause. Congratulations to Kathiani Girls High School for being the greater debater in this debate.
Indeed, that's the end of today's conversation. Thank you for staying with us. To all the participating schools, we appreciate you for contributing to these debates. I have been your host, Esperanza Kapanga.
And until the next episode, I am Chris Boru. Don't touch that dial.